Your work always tells a story. Let's have a close look.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Payal, and our guest today is someone who has experience in her field for more than 25 years. In fact, she's been teaching since 1986. From last 21 years, she's had a daycare, and since 1999, she has a preschool. So let's welcome Shelley Mayer. Welcome to the show, Shelley.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So how are you doing today?
Good, thank you. A little bit nervous.
Okay, the first thing I want to say, I just love the decor of your preschool. It is so cute, interesting. So where did the whole idea come from?
I wanted to do a theme because I wanted kids to respond to a theme. I wanted it to be environmental and about respect. So I thought if I make it look rainforesty, that we need to respect our rainforests. So that's where I got the idea from and did all the decor. My husband helped decorate it. And so I teach them respect for our environment and, of course, more importantly, for each other.
Brilliant. तो शेली कह रही हैं कि इनका जो डेकोर है प्री स्कूल का वो उन्होंने नेचर को ध्यान में रखते हुए बनाया या इसके बारे में सोचा और ये सारा डेकोर इन्होंने और इनके हस्बैंड ने मिलकर किया. So Shelley, now you have been an educator since 1986. So did you always know that you're going to be doing this in life, or did it like come step by step? How did this all come?
I think I always knew I wanted to work with children and I wanted to teach. And so then when I got my Bachelor of Education, I thought maybe I'll stay a little longer at UBC, become a child psychologist. But when I did my practicums, I realized that's where I wanted to be. So that's where I stayed.
Awesome. So Shelley को शुरू से ही ये पता था कि वो एक एजुकेटर बनना चाहती हैं. उन्होंने अपनी पढ़ाई की और इंतज़ार किया जब वो सही मुकाम पे पहुँचे कि इस जिम्मेदारी को अच्छी तरह से निभा पाएँ, मगर शुरू से उन्हें पता था कि वो इसी लाइन में आना चाहती हैं. Okay, Shelley, now a lot of our viewers want to be in the same line. Like someone wants to be a teacher, someone wants to be, have a daycare of their own. So could you please guide them? What are the courses to take? How to go about it? Do they need some kind of an experience or do they need to volunteer? How to go about it?
I would say the best thing would be to volunteer first, because sometimes you have a preconceived idea of what you want to do, and once you're doing it, it may be very different. So first volunteer, make sure it is what you want to do. And then once you do, there's so many facets of daycare and preschool. So you could decide there's a responsible adult program where you can't do it on your own, but you could be with somebody else. You could get your early childhood, which is offered through local colleges. And then you can consult the city that you're in this case, City of Surrey, and they have a package that will tell you how to actually get licensed if you're starting your own business, and it talks you through the whole application process. But I would definitely volunteer first. Make sure it's what you want to do for that length of time, because sometimes half an hour is fine, but after a day you may love it or you may think that's not sort of what I wanted to do. So absolutely volunteer first.
That is so true, and believe me, you're the first person whom I've heard saying this, because usually people say get your degree and then volunteer and then look for a job. But you're so right, because until you're not too sure of what you're doing, you don't want to waste your time studying that subject.
No. And you may change your mind along the way. Originally I taught in the classroom, then I had my own children, and that's when I thought, how can I be at home with them, still use the degree? So I thought, well, I'll do daycare for a while, go back when they're in grade 1. And before you knew it, along came another child. And then I realized, how could I teach and still be available to them in the way I wanted to be? So that's when I got my early childhood. So your choices can also evolve over time. You don't have to stay with what you started with. You can use it as your journey, which usually isn't straight. It can curve, and that's okay.
So there are a lot of parents at home who are trying to work on kids or prepare their kids for preschools, for kindergartens. And as a parent, it's always good to get a tip from here and there, and especially from a person who's already in the field. It's always good to know if you're doing it right and what different or what extra can we do for our kids. So please give any tips or any guideline to the parents on how can we prepare our kids or for kindergarten, for preschool. Some few tips, please.
Okay. So first of all, I would say you're always doing it right when you're involved with your children. You can't do it wrong if you're doing your best. The most important thing I would say is to read to your children. It's almost become a lost art because they're so plugged in right now. And so don't forget those simple back to the basics things of reading. It teaches them so much about reading readiness. And to use your environment around you. You don't always have to sit down with flashcards and drill them. It could be something so simple that you're going into a store and you notice the sign and, oh, look, there's an S for Save On, just as you're living your life with them. And I also am a firm believer in problem solving. That if they, for instance, can't pick up a toy because it's under something, so they're going to start to cry, it really prepares them to say, what can you do to get that toy? And teach them the steps. We're going to move that one to get to the one underneath, and that problem solving builds confidence. And when they have confidence, their social responsibility and all of those other things improves, and they can carry that into the outside world. So those would be my two things to get ready, would be mostly reading to your child, coloring, again, another forgotten art, to just sit and quietly color with your child, talk to your child, and interact. Those are the most important things you can do, and sometimes letting them fall a little bit so they can figure out how to solve the problem, of course in an age-appropriate way, because that so builds confidence, and when you're confident, you can take on bigger and better things than when you don't have the confidence to do so. Those would be my most important tips. The rest comes, but those are the most important things that are harder to teach. You have to live it.
Thank you. Now, also a lot of preschoolers, they don't communicate openly. They're very, very shy. Sometimes it looks like they're unable to put their thoughts into words, or they just don't talk. So something to help them open up and put their thoughts into words more clearly. Any kind of tips, please?
I think sometimes if that child is shy, say another child's talking to them and the child won't answer, I might then intervene and say, oh, it looks like so-and-so, whatever the child's name is, really values what you're trying, what your opinion is on something. So what can you say to them? I hear her saying she'd like to play dolls with you. What do you think your answer could be? So you're trying to give that child credit that this other child values them enough they want to play. And so how can you respond? Other kids, you don't have to do that. They're going to respond. But the other one who's internalizing it more, you may need to just do a couple of things to pull it out of them a little bit. And so it's okay to say, what can you say to her? Because she's asking you a question, you know?
It also kind of encourages them and motivates them to talk. And sometimes it gives them the words.
It does, and also trying to ask them questions that are not yes or no answers. So for instance, when my kids do show and tell, instead of saying, do you like your toy? What do you like about your toy? So that's going to elicit more of a response. So always checking, because it's so easy to answer for a child sometimes, or just yes or no. And sometimes we need to give them more credit. They can expand if we just ask the question a little bit differently.
So more of open-ended questions rather than a close-ended yes-no questions. Yeah, that makes so much of sense. Apart from your professional life, now I have, when we were talking a few days ago, you shared a beautiful experience about, something that happened in your life and, how you contributed and when your husband wasn't well. Would you please like to share it with our viewers?
It's something everybody would do. My husband had a kidney disease called IgA nephropathy, and so he needed a donor, and I was blessed enough to have been a match. So anybody, I'm sure, who loves somebody would have donated the kidney. That's not the issue. But I would like to say that if anybody's thinking of kidney donation, it is not something that will affect your own health if that's what anybody's concerned about. I'm perfectly healthy, and they do say donors are usually healthier than other people because you have to go through a battery of tests to make sure you qualify. But since having donated, my health is the same. I missed 4 weeks of work, that's it. Back to normal, no health indicators, and that was 7 years ago. So if anybody is thinking of donating and they're not sure, I'm happy to have them contact me and just let them feel at peace with any questions they may have, because sometimes it is a fearful thing. You don't know how it's going to affect you. And if anybody would like to discuss that, I'm happy to do that.
That's always a fear in mind that, I'm giving away, an organ. How am I going to be? Will I be not be able to do something? Will I be normal? So those questions are always in someone's mind who wants to, who's maybe thinking of donating.
That's right. And it doesn't have to be like that. And sometimes I know my husband talked to somebody who was a transplant recipient, and it made him feel better before the surgery to have someone's opinion who's not the doctor. Just actual real life. How did it go for you? And so I'm happy to answer any of those questions. I'm just one person, but from my perspective, how it went for me, it doesn't have to be something that's frightening or.
And it'll be comforting for the other person to hear it from you because you've been through it. And what I feel, how is a human being different than other beings? It's because of love, care, compassion. So I would request you, think about organ donation one. Think beyond you and yours. Think for many other people, because not everyone's lucky to, find a match. They are looking for donors outside of their family. And who are going to help them? Other human beings. Because we're meant to help each other. That's our nature. That's the gift of God we've got. And if you're thinking of donating or you want to know more about organ donation, please go to transplant.bc.ca. Thank you so much, Shelley, for your time today, and not only for sharing all the informative things, but also for the beautiful experience of your personal life.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So Shelley and Payal are signing off. Bye-bye.